Hello, and welcome to my mid-year bullet journal setup. I am so excited to be filming this video because that essentially means that I filled my January to June bullet journal, and she is thick, you guys. I'm so happy about it. And it is actually time for me to move into this brand new shiny July to December 2024 journal. I opted for another Leuchtturm 1917 120G page book. So same as last time, just because I wanted to keep consistency between the two, and I'm just excited to be diving in and filling this one as well for the next 6 months. So to start with, I have my cover page. I am keeping it very similar to my previous one, and using a Chiogami paper again this time. I actually went into the paper store unsure of what paper I was going to pick. There was one that kind of was still black and gold and really stuck out to me and kind of matched the previous ones, but I figured that I would opt for, when I saw this one, I immediately knew, like, this is it. I saw what the whole spread could look out like. I like how it's flowers, but it's also kind of very geometric. It's a little bit trippy showing up on camera sometimes as well. All those different like flowers kind of overlapping and coming together. But essentially I was like, you know what? We're not doing gold. We're doing black and white, nice and simple, kind a little bit minimalistic, but also really good. So as you can see there, I essentially just used my glue tape to get that full page in onto that first page there, and then cut the corners so that they're back into nice little rounded edges. And then while I was in the paper store, I also picked up this copy of, I think it was like handmade paper, just to use throughout the book for different things. So I'm just gonna write on the top there 2024 July to December on it, just to create like a nice little title page for the book. And you could kind of see it there, but I am obsessed with having straight lines all the time when I do things. So I most definitely went in and drew my lines ahead of time to make sure that they were nice and straight. Downside to that was finding out that when you erase on it, it kind of messes up the paper a little bit. So I had to go in with some tweezers, but whatever. After that, I got into adding in my 2 pocket pages. So in my last journal, in previous years, like my 2023 journal and 2022, I actually only made 1 pocket. But for 2024, I opted to put 2 pockets in, and I love it so much. Mainly because the first pocket, I always have things that stay in there. I have my keys, which I will be transferring over from my previous journal. That will go there, kind of just my reminder of what colors I used for different like book ratings. I have my ruler guide, my grid line guide is in there as well. I have just kind of like anything really that I just want to remember or is like a key for me goes into the first of the 2 pockets. And then I like the second pocket because sometimes I just have something that I want to record or keep for a later date, or a scrap of paper or a concert ticket, and it's really easy for me just to kind of like slip it in there and then keep it there for a period of time until it can actually make its way to its actual home, wherever that may be in my house. After that, I moved into a themes page, and it's funny, at the beginning of the year when I was setting up my January to June, I knew exactly what my themes were going to be. However, right now I'm a little bit unsure. So I don't know, I have a couple different ideas kind of like mulling around in my head. I do know I'm debating between whether I want to do like as many themes as I did for the beginning of the year, because a lot of those were about like self-discovery, self-love, making sure that I go out and don't be scared to try and do new things. And I think that's still kind of like an ongoing theme for the rest of the year. But I also feel like I could do a little bit better, and I could draw my list of themes down into something a little bit more succinct. So I don't know. I feel like the theme for the rest of the year could be continue, or it could be being brave and kind of like fearless, or I don't even know at this point. Like, it could be anything really, but I think it's just like coming up with what exactly I want the rest of the year to be. And I just think like maybe right now I'm not necessarily in the mind space to come up with what I want it to be. I have a lot of things going on, and I'm thinking through a lot of things, and I just find that I'm slightly anxious as well. But at the same time, it's like maybe now is the perfect time to come up with my theme for the rest of the year, to look at those things that I'm feeling a little bit anxious about or unsure about, and my themes could be something to kind of like alleviate that or fix whatever like that problem, quote unquote, could be. But I don't know. That's a lot to say. You guys will find out what my theme is at some point. You know, it is still mid-June right now, so I will have this kind of figured out by the time July 1st rolls around, what exactly that theme will be, but we will get there. And then after that, I just moved on to my future log. It's kind of like a boring spread, to be totally honest. And I don't always go back and use it, but I love having future logs in my setups. Mainly because it's just like a very good way for me to go back and check for things that recur. So obviously, like, Canada Day is July 1st. I'm probably not going to write... Actually, you know what? I probably will. I will 100% write that Canada Day is on July 1st in this notebook. But it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, like, these are when holidays are. Like, at a glance, I could see a whole calendar without having to, like, pull out my phone or pull up a Google Calendar. Like, it's all there for me. So as you can see, I basically just wrote all of the calendars in. I was doing 2 per page. And then I started writing with the silver pen because I thought it complemented kind of like that silvery shimmer paper that I had. And then I quickly realized that I actually kind of hated it. So I opted just to make these little like 3-box things on the paper where I could do all of the different months. So from July through December on there, as a little bit of visual interest for the calendar, I guess you could say. And then just also started tying that color in as well, just because I haven't used that paper yet anywhere in the book except for like a header every once in a while. And then on the right hand side of the page, I actually opted to do a full 2025 future log as well, just because as we head into the year, this is going to December, I thought it could be really nice to kind of have an idea of what is going on there as well. And then after my future log, we entered the spread that I think truly made me wonder if I was okay. And it's funny because I feel as if almost... You know, I've had some spreads this year. I did say I wanted to expand my creativity and do more and try new things and all of that. And I definitely have done that. This year, making these spreads, I have forced myself out of my comfort zone so much. There are some that are like super easy for me and I could just pop them out. Off the top of my head, I think like my July spread honestly was such a quick setup for me. So was February, or like, it's just, I've had some spreads that are super easy, and then I've had some where I'm like, let's test our patience through every single moment of this. I think February was kind of a bit of a doozy, so was April, and I came up with a brilliant idea for my goals that I debated doing like a Dutch door at one point, and then I figured I wanted it to be this like a series of like pages, I guess, like a flip book. I don't even know how to fully describe it, but essentially it would look like it was 2 covered sheets of paper, but really each goal was on like a separate page. So this actually ended up being like an 8-page spread that once completed, actually it looks as if it's only 1. As you can see there, I very carefully measured my paper. I also was very, very specific about how I wanted it to match between the 2 sheets. So I needed to find a piece that was big enough that it could just align and blend between the two, so it looks as if it's one page and not like fully cut in half, or there wasn't like any offsets. And then that translated into the following pages as well. So what you can see here is I am actually cutting part of that page off, and then in the first two boxes that are, or like the edge two boxes on that page, I am putting it in, and then I'm trying to line it up so that the kind of section that I cut lines up with the section that said goals. And I'm essentially doing that through all 4 pages that I am creating here. So there's like these 2 little 1 centimeter strip of the BuJo paper for on each page, but when you have all 4 pages together, it's just like one full page, if that makes sense. And quite honestly, this was the most nerve-wracking and time-consuming spread I think I have ever done. I was so nervous as I was putting it together. I was being so careful to make sure that I got everything aligned perfectly. And there is, you know, there's one tiny, tiny little mistake that kind of kills me in there as well. Like here, where I completely forgot to like cut the paper ahead of time. Like, what was I doing? I don't know. But essentially I'm actually so proud of this spread. I think it looks so good. Every time I like flip to it in my book, I'm kind of like, oh my God, you did that. But yeah, I'm just really happy that I managed to kind of like go outside my comfort zone a little bit, I guess you could say, and make it all match up and make it work. And my vision was actually something that was doable, because she's a beaut, guys. She is so pretty. And I'm just so happy that it was one of those instances where what I thought of and what happened actually worked. And as you can see here, this is what I was meaning with it, like all kind of like blending together into one page. And then I just created, using that paper again, like little headers for my tabs for like 3 months, 6 months, big and scary goals, 1 year goals, like all of that. So it ends up just kind of falling together, kind of like a flip book might be the word for it. I don't know. If you know what word to use to describe like what this is, please let me know down below in the comments, because I don't know what it is, but I know that there's definitely a word to describe what that is. Then after that, I just moved into a really simple spread. I just added in my sinking funds and subscriptions here. So my sinking funds are essentially just anything that I want to save for throughout the course of the year. And I do save. I'm actually taking out my bigger savings goal in here, just because things have shifted a little bit, and I am not putting as much money into like my TFSA and retirement fund and everything else. I've kind of decided to put it on pause for a little bit of time. But that being said, I do still have my sinking funds, because I like to be able to afford things and essentially have the money for something before I purchase it. So kind of the big ones here is horseback lessons, which I do need to, I have a deposit in for, and I just need to pay the remainder by the end of the year. I am looking to get a cat at some point. I need to get a new computer, like a MacBook or an iPad, most likely a MacBook. And then I just have like a shopping fund, like when the Sephora sale comes around and I want to spend a couple $100s, I know I have the money for it saved up already throughout the course of the year. And then I just have an extra box there because I keep feeling as if I'm forgetting something that I want to be saving for. And there's also something that I'm actually considering putting on there, but I am not sharing with you guys yet. You guys actually won't know until it's most likely already happened. But yeah, so that might end up going into there as well. And then I also just save for all my subscriptions throughout the year. So I know Netflix is about $250 a year. I know I spend $100 for my websites and stuff like that. So I just like to have the money saved ahead of time, if that makes sense. So that going into like 2025, all those subscriptions are actually, that money that I'm saving is actually for next year. It is not actually for like this year's current subscriptions. So I'm always kind of like ahead, which is kind of nice. Like, if case anything happens, I do know that I can still kind of maintain the things that I currently love. And like, yeah, just maintain the things that I currently love a little bit if I so choose. And then after that, I have my yearly spending challenge. So I like to do like 52 weeks to $1,000. It's usually just like a simple 2-page spread for me. I have already saved $306 between January and the end of June will be 306. So I just put the remaining 26 boxes on the page there. So, you know, starting at 306 from January to June, the numbers that I still have remaining for the rest of 2024. And at the end of that, it will just be $1,000. This is just money that I usually just like roll into my savings account at the end of the year. It's a super easy, super like simple way for me to like save without really thinking about it. On top of like all the other ways that I save, like the more strategic saving, I should say, that I do. And then I have my things to check out spread, which is actually one of my favorites. I have a couple things that are going to be migrating over from my previous BuJo, just because I know that I didn't get to it. Media such as TV, movies, podcasts, I usually manage to just like check off all the time, in large part because I am always like, if I'm at my computer a lot of the time, I might be watching TV at the same time, or like listening to it, I guess you could say. And then in terms of podcasts, if I am walking or doing anything like that, I'm either listening to an audio book or a podcast. So yeah, so I just essentially have like media, so TVs, movies, podcasts, like I mentioned, places that I want to go, which could be any like restaurant, stores, stuff like that around Toronto, and then experiences like the CN Tower walk. I want to go on a helicopter ride, like things like that. And then I also have my 2 trackers that I'm adding in. So my first is my 100 book tracker, which was in my previous journal. I did debate whether or not I wanted to just include like the remaining books that I have for the year potentially, or just redo the spread entirely in this one. And I actually opted to redo it and include 100 boxes, in large part because I also track my ratings, and this is the only one that I track my ratings on. The one in my book journal just more counts like how many books I've read over like per month is what I'm tracking, but this one I actually track like this was a 3-star read, or this was a 4-star, 5-star read. So I did make the decision to transfer all 45 books that I have currently read into this one as well, with the color coding in there, so that hopefully if I read 100 books this year, I can see very clearly like, oh, you read a lot of 3-star books, or you read a lot of 2-star books or 5-star books, without having to go back to like the other journal and kind of look at both of them. I just wanted just like kind of like at a glance both of them there. So I will go back at some point and color in and like kind of like transcribe over those books. And then I have a new spread, which I actually haven't talked about this a lot. I actually don't think I've ever really talked about it, but I actually volunteer for a cat rescue, and I help match people with adoptable cats. So when I saw, it was in the back of my mind to kind of like do it, and then I actually saw this sticker set when I stopped by a stationery store one day, and I automatically bought 2 because I realized that it was the perfect grid spacing for me to fit like 2 per line. I could put all the cats in and stuff like that. And you know, sometimes I debated getting like pictures of the cats and putting them there. I have considered, but if I do pictures, that's more than like a 1 or 2 page spread. That's like quite a lot. up until this point, like at time of recording, it's like mid-June right now, and I have already had 14 cats that I have helped find homes for. So I was like 14 cats on a spread, like no matter how small I try to make those photos, it's going to take up some space. So here we are, we opted for just writing their names and maybe sometimes a little note, because I do have 2 lines per cat for them, and just, you know, recording them going off to their forever homes, because they all hold such special places in my heart. And then for my next spread, I just did a document in pictures. This is one of my favorite spreads in my journals ever since I started incorporating it last year, just because it does force me to like actually take pictures throughout the year, because I am someone who definitely did not take a lot of pictures for a long time. But this spread does force me to like sit down and in the moment remember to take a picture of something as it's happening, and like get a little bit better at documenting things and the moments that make me feel happy or joyful, or kind of something that I want to remember. But it also is really nice for me to look back at the end of the year and just kind of like see all the things that might have been like really small. Some of them are big, but big or small, that held a lot of meaning for me in the moment. So because this is only for July to December, I essentially just wrote July to December in pictures, is my title there on that handmade paper that I have been using throughout, keeping it nice and simple. And then I just created boxes for each of the Polaroid pictures to go into. I actually discovered the other day that Instax actually sells like a black and white like Polaroid picture, so you could print it out and it gives you like a monochrome. I am so tempted to purchase this, I won't lie, but I do not think I would use, I don't really like the idea of transferring the like Polaroid pack in and out of the printer so that I could alternate between color and black and white. Obviously, my solution to this dilemma is to potentially consider just buying another printer, because I saw that they also have I have a white one, but they also have like this really pretty like dark blue one, and I'm like, well, you could just put the black and white one in the dark blue one. But I don't know. I'm going to try and hold myself back from buying a printer that I do not need at this point in time. But please know that is in my mind about how I could use potentially the black and white one in my journal at some point. But essentially for now, we will be documenting the year in color. And then after that, I went into my social media trackers. So this is actually a new spread for me. It's not something that I have included in, I shouldn't say I haven't included in a journal. I included it in a journal years and years ago, and then never really like cared about it, to be totally honest. Like I wasn't really doing anything related to social media. I wasn't really posting a lot. Like, yeah, I could talk about Instagram followers, but like I was really only posting and talking to my friends. It was just like, it made no sense. But now, I've actually feeling like I've wanted somewhere to document it, just because, you know, I have started this YouTube channel towards the end of last year, and I have goals associated with that as well. I have the podcast, which is coming out soon, on June 20th. So next week, you guys, which I do want to record some stuff, and metrics for that as well. And it was just kind of like, put a social media tracker in and call it a day. So as you can see, most of them are just like those plain black squares, and then I have some gold ones in there specifically for YouTube. So YouTube subscribers, those 2 squares are just kind of like the landmarks that YouTube sets out in terms of like monetization. And it's funny, like I don't really, it would be nice to be monetized, but I also think it's not something that, like, I'm not looking for this to be my full-time job or anything like that. I know myself, I know I wouldn't be able to kind of deal with like the mental game of potentially doing like YouTube full-time, but I do think it would be nice. It is a goal of mine to kind of like hit that like 500 subscriber mark and that 1,000 subscriber mark. And then also like the watch hours thing. It's something that really like motivates me and drives me. So I am putting it out into the universe. Please like, subscribe, and help me hit those two goals. And then I just have some Instagram goals as well. So that essentially is my mid-year bullet journal setup, taking me from July to December of 2024, and just kind of like my start of the journal. Like I said, I really love it. I really kind of am happy that I ended up going with this like really simple black and white paper. My goals page really stands out to me, and it's something that I love. But, you know, like always, let me know if you are doing any of these spreads. Tag me in them on Instagram or just shoot me a DM. And, you know, I hope you are doing something creative and something that you love. So until next time, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe and like if you haven't already. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.